All right, my friend. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, what's going on? Welcome into the Coin Flip Podcast, episode 50, whatever. The NBA Finals just wrapped up less than an hour ago, and I am outside ready to record this podcast. This reaction, the 2022 Finals have come to a close. Jacob Zimmerman here on the mic. No Martin Kelly today, filling in for him, James Guerin. James, thanks for coming along.
Problem, man. No problem.
All right, so this one just got wrapped up. James, the final score, the box score, 103-90. The Golden State Warriors get it done in 6 games over the Boston Celtics. Initially, my reaction to this game, I mean, the cameras don't lie. They were pointing right at Steph Curry as soon as this one was a wrap. He kind of got down on the ground, LeBron-esque, the cameras all around him. Everybody could tell it was his moment. The finals MVP in this series, it's not that close. Curry showed up in the biggest moment today. Overall for this game, it was a game truly of runs. The Celtics started out really hot, 14-2 early, just the first couple of minutes of the first quarter. Right after that, the Golden State Warriors went on one of the all-time craziest runs in finals history. I think it was 21-0, largest finals run in, 50 years. Then it was like 35-8. It was 50-20-something at halftime. The Warriors kind of turned it on prematurely. Normally they get it done in the third quarter. This time it was the second quarter, James.
Yes, it was. They had a 10-point differential in that second quarter. But before we get into that, before we get into talk about what it means for each individual player, I kind of wanted to point something out that
What's that?
that I've been kind of saying to people all throughout the series long. This is the Celtics' first finals for this core group, and for the core group for the Warriors, this is their 6th finals. So, for the coaching staff, they've been there. For the players, they've been there. So experience, I think, was the biggest advantage in terms of being able to play your game on the biggest stage. And the Warriors didn't seem that they were phased at any point. Maybe you can argue the first few games in this series, but once they went down 2-1. They turned it around completely, and this series had a whole different script.
And they called their shot, James. They called their shot. They said it was just going to be like it was in 2015, and that's exactly what happened. Down 2-1, they win 3 straight games, just like they did to LeBron with nobody around him. And the Warriors got it done. This time, way more impressive. I think you could tell, and Curry kind of even said it in the post-game interview, this one meant perhaps even the most. The first time around, your first championship, it's a huge thing. You've proven yourself. But this time around, after what they've been through, their highs, their lows, and boy, there's some of their, in NBA history, I don't think we've seen the highs the Warriors have gotten. And the lows, that's as bad as it gets. I mean, everybody wrote them off. I mean, whether you said it or you didn't, you at least thought, man, it's going to be hard for Golden State to win another chip. And James, as we're kind of starting this off, I won't lie, me and you are into sports betting. And I placed a future a couple weeks back, a little bit before the finals started, and I had the Golden State Warriors winning this series. And James, I had never put as much money down on a team to win a game or for any really bet in sports until I put $99 on the Golden State Warriors, and they pulled through for me. I got 2 Coronas. I'm celebrating.
I love to hear it, man. I mean, I also put a future down, but not as big, not as much as yours was. It was before the series started. I said the Warriors were going to win in 6. And I only put $10 on it, but it was to win $43. I I did go a little bit too high on Clay tonight, so I am a little bit disappointed on that. He only made 2 threes and only had 12 points, so he really let me down in both those
Shattering, man,
categories.
shattering.
But I still got the series bet right. But it was just really the experience is what it came down to more than anything. Um, and you could see it again here tonight. Tatum struggling in the fourth quarter. And it wasn't even just him, it was a little bit of everybody as well. I mean, just look at the box score for the Boston Celtics. Tatum, 6 for 18. I mean, Jaylen Brown was 12 for 23, so he was pretty efficient. But Marcus Smart went 4 for 12.
Yep.
Derek White went 1 for 6. And they shot 43% from the field today, which isn't horrendous. And they shot 39% from 3, so that wasn't horrendous either. It was just the fact that I think that they really, really struggle being able to facilitate each possession. What was so crucial for the Celtics the last time that they were a force and making all these NBA finals is they had that facilitator at Rondo who was able to run the offense. And Tatum, he is a star. He's not a superstar, and the series proved that he is just a star at this point. But they lack that point guard that they can say, "Hey,
And
here's the offense."
you're exactly right, my man. I mean, looking at the box score, Tatum 5 turnovers, Jaylen Brown 5 turnovers, Horford had 3, Smart had 3, Robert Williams III even had 2. He should never have a turnover. 22 total on the day, and that statistic plagued the Boston Celtics all series long. And James, I want to get into the Celtics a little bit later in the reaction. For now, let's talk about Steph Curry just a little bit more. Steph Curry's greatness. Now, we're not going to turn this into a top 10 debate. Whether you think he's in the top 10 or not, regardless, you've got to have him top 15. So we can all agree on that. Where you rank him is where you rank him. But this is an all-time great playoff run. What he did was amazing. His three-point shooting, James, often throughout his career, a little gripe with Steph Curry was his statistics, they go down just a tad in some of these meaningful games, as they should. And Curry really did a great job of this whole entire series, other than the last game, other than Game 5. He destroyed it. He was incredible. 6 of 11 from downtown. Follows up a game where he couldn't hit a single three-pointer with a masterpiece 34-7 and 7. And to top it all off, you could tell a noticeable difference between this time and the last time Steph Curry was in the NBA Finals, his defense. Time after time, I kept seeing the switch to get Curry, and really what ended up happening was he would kind of hold his own a little bit in the post, which is incredible to say. He's definitely gotten a lot stronger. He's older, but he's got that grown man strength. He's seen it all. He knows how to use his body. And time again, the Boston Celtics tried to just chip him out wherever they wanted. And it didn't work that frequently. So I think Steph Curry, his overall game really got displayed. His finishing. James, the craziest thing, I don't think he shot a free throw till the fourth quarter. I mean, he was doing all those, drives in the paint. Not a single call till the fourth quarter. That's amazing.
Yeah, you might be right about that. And it's crazy that, Curry was able to average as many points as he did in this finals going up against the defense
It's going to
that
be
the
like
Boston
32.
Celtics have. Yeah, so, he balled out. And, he shut up the haters. And I think that this one does mean the most to him. And because of what they've been through the last 2 years. And it makes it that much sweeter when you hit that bottom, and rather than playing on the court in June, you're thinking about who am I going to get in this lottery pick. It's a completely different mental game at that point. And so, the Warriors, a lot of people don't like them. Some people just don't like greatness, but for some reason I found myself rooting for the Warriors to beat the Celtics, and it didn't really even have to relate to the fact that the Celtics beat my Heat, but it was just, history is great to watch, and Steve Kerr is a sensational coach, and I think he's going to end up being one of the greats when it's all said and done. But the coaching tree that Kerr has been able to plant. I mean, he's got two other coaches on his staff who are going to be head coaches of NBA teams next season. So, the
Guaranteed.
Warriors. What's that?
Guaranteed.
Yeah, so they have three head coaches on one team. So, the Warriors have just always been able to do the right things. The general manager, I forget his name, but he was up there, spoke really briefly, but
Bob
he is the
Myers?
mastermind. Yeah, Bob Myers is the mastermind behind all of this. He is the guy that is able to lure in these players for really cheap deals like Jordan Poole, and finding guys like Gary Payton II.
Yeah, because
And
he's a
just
rookie.
guys and just finding guys that are able to produce that aren't that expensive. But it's something that he's been able to do for the last 7, 8 years. So,
And,
it's
James, that's a great point. And someone that Bob Myers found a long time ago, a decade ago, Draymond Green, he really picked it up in this game, James. I mean, look at it. 2 for 5 from 3 from Draymond Green, shooting 40%. Something about, Draymond Green in these big games. He can find a way to hit his shot. 5 of 10 from the floor. By far his best game in the finals. 12 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals, and 12 points. Draymond really turned it around. He talked the talk. He walked the walk at last in the closeout game. He finally put it all together for one last one. And kind of going through the rest of the cast. Andrew Wiggins, he was the second best player in these finals. Let's be real. As far as the Warriors go, I think he's third overall, probably behind, maybe Jaylen Brown. I think Tatum's fourth in that listing when you kind of rank the Finals MVP ladder when it's all said and done. But Wiggins really got it done. 4 of 9 from deep. At times, it's like, man, Wiggins isn't that good at 3, but when they leave him wide open, someone's got to take the open shot on Golden State other than Curry and Thompson. That's what the Boston Celtics are thinking. Clay struggled in this one. Wiggins kept them afloat for sure. And boy, they get great stuff out of Jordan Poole. 5 of 12 from the floor. He is absolutely electric. James, he kind of has this Curry factor that I think only he and Curry have, at least I saw this season, to where when they heat up and get absolutely scorching, the crowd just reaches another level of intensity. And the whole momentum shifts their way. If Jordan Poole is on fire, he wasn't on fire today, but he did enough. 15 points, plus 11 in the plus minus. The supporting cast, the rest of the crew, they also showed up as well.
So I'm looking at this ESPN. I'm watching the celebration, and they just showed this stat up here for Steph Curry on defense, and he gave up 10 points tonight on 3 for 12 shooting, and he forced 6 turnovers.
He wanted it, man.
And he forced 1 for 3 from beyond the arc. So the Celtics, going back to my last point, they just don't have that facilitator. They had 23 turnovers today. And, that makes them go to 1-8 this postseason when they commit more than 16. So that's the recipe right there. You take care of the ball, you're going to win. You give it up, you're going to lose. And that's just what happens when you're inexperienced. This is the first run for this Celtics team. And for their own sake, they hope it's not their last. But for me, I hope it is their last, being the East Heat fan that I am. But it's going to be tough. The Celtics are going to
I think you just alluded to a huge topic over the offseason, James. Will the Boston Celtics get back to the NBA Finals next year? I don't think it looks as bright as it does. Hear me out. Robert Williams III is going to be healthy next season, most likely. He is already turning into perhaps maybe the best overall defender in the NBA. I mean, he's that good. He can play perimeter defense, not bad. I mean, this guy is crazy. He proved it in this Game 6 with the amount of blocks he had. But, I mean, this team is... The Celtics are going to get better, but Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they got to work on their game. It seems like they need to get a point guard in there to help with their playmaking. Somehow, if you can, pull that off without having to get rid of Marcus Smart, maybe you can trade a guy like Derek White to get a point guard who can really dish the rock. I mean, White really showed out. He's going to increase his trade value a lot over the offseason. So I think the Celtics going forward, they have stuff they can do. Here's the problem. Chris Middleton, if he was healthy, we all know this would have been Bucks Warriors. At least in my opinion. If, KD, if Kyrie gets right, if they figure things out with Ben Simmons, they could be in the mix. I mean, your Miami Heat are no joke. They can make a trade in the offseason and be right there again as well. There's a ton of other teams in the East. I mean, Joel Embiid, the list goes on and on. The offseason road for the Celtics, they got to improve because the league just keeps getting better, James.
It does, and every year you have to make those adjustments. And the one thing for the Boston Celtics is they got to get guys that can control the ball. And I'm looking at this box score, and I forgot that they put in all their bench players towards the end of the game. But they only pretty much played 2 guys off the bench, and then Peyton Pritchard for 8 minutes. So, they only had a 7-man rotation. And for Brown and Tatum, they're in their mid-20s, so they're still young, and they're still they still got a lot of years left on those feet. So I'm just saying over time that's going to come back to bite them, and it could cause some fatigue over time. So for the Celtics, you just got to get some more role players. You got to get some more guys that you can trust, and I know for the Celtics, they like guys that can play defense, and that's great and all, but at some point you gotta trade in that defense for some offense. So that's got to be their number one
Not
priority.
even really offense, though. I think more just decision making, basketball maturity, high IQ, playmaking, knowing who should take a shot when. I think that's really what you need. You don't necessarily need more scoring, more offense. You need a guy like Rajon Rondo back in the day, who's looking to get his 10 points and his 10 assists. More importantly, the assists. He doesn't need to be the star. He doesn't need to be that guy who's all over SportsCenter, but he's going to come in and get the job done.
Yeah, they need somebody like that because Marcus Smart, as great as he is on defense, he's just not the kind of offensive point guard that you need in today's NBA. And it's nice to get that accolade, a Defensive Player of the Year and all, but
he didn't play
at the end of the day, Curry still averaged over 30, in the finals against him. So, I think he got humbled a little bit, and I think the Celtics, they're not going to go away quietly. But it is going to be difficult. Ever since LeBron left the East, there's been a new team in the finals every year. So, it's tough. It's going to be tough for anybody in the East to go back to back, let alone the Celtics.
And James, who is the one team from the West to have won a championship since LeBron left the East?
Well, no, it's the Warriors, but it was the Lakers.
Yes.
Up until tonight.
Yes, up until tonight. You are correct. You are correct. The East wasn't so weak after all.
I kind of want to discuss a little bit too. We could probably go another 5-10 minutes or so, but legacies. This is a topic that everybody's going to be talking about now.
Yeah, it
is.
And
it's Steph Curry got his 4th ring. He's 4-2 in the NBA Finals, and he got the one thing that everybody was saying that he needed to get to really solidify, you
He
know,
did. He did.
his top 10 players of all time, which that is debatable at this moment. But in a couple of years that may change. But getting that Finals MVP that he so desperately needed. But winning 4 out of 6.
Is he
You
top
know,
10 for you?
it's
Because here's your question. Here's your question. Because I went on Max Christensen's show, Take a Seat, and I said Steph Curry was top 10. I later kind of went through all the whole list, and I'm like, okay, if Steph Curry is top 10, that means that he has to knock out 2 of the following players. Let's say he's better than Hakeem Olajuwon. Okay, that's 1. He's got to be either better than Tim Duncan, Wilt Chamberlain, Larry Bird, or Kobe Bryant. That's pretty much, one of
right.
those 4 guys you got to
Who are
knock
the
out.
who are the other guys that are in it? Michael, LeBron, who else?
Michael, LeBron, Shaq, Magic, Kareem, and Russell.
Hmm. This is going to be talked
I'd
about all
say
next week.
maybe it's Larry Bird. Maybe it's him.
I think everybody is so high on Larry Bird because he's white, and I think, in today's age, it's so bad to say, like, it truly is, but, like, you
No,
could look up,
it's facts. Like people
you
get
could look up,
crucified for just talking about topics that need to be talked about.
and you can look up old quotes of him, talking about stuff like that during, there was a quote, he's like, I don't care if you're, red, blue, black, whatever. I just didn't want a white guy guard on me because that would have been offensive to me, or something like that. And I'm
I
like, damn,
saw that today.
that's a real quote from Larry Bird himself. Like it's just it happened. It's a real thing, and we can't deny that. But maybe you're right, and maybe it would have to be Larry Bird. I mean, he only has what? He's got 3 championships, right?
And yes, and James, you bring up a point about legacy talk, and you bring up Curry, and we kind of just gave you the names. Either you think he's above one of those guys or he's not. Regardless, he's one of the best all-time great players of this generation. I want to talk about another legend when it comes to all-time legacy discussion. James, if Jason Tatum would have not shot one more shot there at the end of the game, his field goal line would have been the exact same as today's date, 6/17. Actually, no. Well, it depends on where you are. I mean, it's now past midnight for me, but 6, you see my point. I mean, tour date type efficiency in the finals in the majority of your games is not okay. Jason Tatum severely, outrageously underperformed in my eyes, and he's kind of going to get a pass, and I think it's not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, but I think you can legitimately make the argument that some of his wins to the finals were slightly fluky. A lot of his role players stepped up in ways I've never seen before. Jason Tatum is loved by a lot of people, not only from Celtics fans, but he captures the heart of Kobe Bryant and Laker fans because of how much of a tribute he gives to him. And I get it. He's going up against a lot of great defenders on the Warriors. But he's not going up against Andre Iguodala. He's going up against Andrew Wiggins, and I get it. Andrew Wiggins completely transformed himself, did some Superman-type surgery before this finals, series. But it's like Jason Tatum I knew he was a little suspect. I thought Jaylen Brown at times is as good as Tatum. But I didn't see Andrew Wiggins locking him up like this all series long. I mean, going forward at Tatum, people are going to think overall, getting to the finals, of course, should be weighed a lot higher than choking in the finals. I think finals losses are a silver medal. You were better than 28 other teams. People need to get that through their head. But Jason Tatum did kind of, really struggle in these finals.
Yeah, let's not hand out participation trophies. If you're not
I'm
first,
not
you're
saying that,
last.
but a silver medal is way better than someone who finished in 8th place.
Well, sure. Sure, but you didn't do what you set your goal to be. And yeah, you can look at it both ways. You can look at it as like, yeah, we had a great season and we did well.
They did
Or
better
you
than
can,
every other conference. Any other team in their conference, they did better than. That's a win for the Boston Celtics, at least getting here. I think overall their season is an A plus. The Warriors season is an A plus plus, but this is an A plus because you were better than 28 other teams, and 28 owners are absolutely jealous of what you pulled off.
yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. So now, Curry can cross it off the bucket list. Win a Finals MVP, win one without KD, and win one against a team who is relatively healthy. Would you say that
Yes.
the Celtics were pretty healthy for the most part?
Yes. I would say Williams will speed up a little bit. Marcus Smart is, hella tough, but he was probably favoring something. I think Jason Tatum's shoulder is actually going to be an underlying story, over the offseason. I think, somehow, some way, it's going to come out, oh, Tatum had XYZ, whether his shoulder, whether he did, whether he did not. But you're right. I think that's a great point. The Warriors got it done. There's really not many asterisks by this finals. I think that's a pretty good thing to say at the end of the season. As for Golden State, I mean, Steph Curry kept it together. Both Curry and Thompson late in this playoff run, sustained borderline sprained ankles. I mean, you could see the replay at times. They twisted their ankles pretty bad, but they were absolutely focused. They were locked in as they've ever been. I don't think the injuries really play that much into it.
And I think a lot of people aren't going to talk about Klay Thompson's performance because they did win, but I mean, he went 5 for 20
That will
tonight.
get swept under the rug completely. No one will be talking about it in 2 days.
Yeah, no one's going to be talking about it, and so he's going to get a pass. But it's incredible to see him being out there and going after, after those two brutal injuries. To see him even out there again is is incredible to watch. But for next season, can we
Here's
can
the
we
thing.
even can we even talk about who's the favorites? Who you liking?
I realized about Klay Thompson, I think his perimeter defense has lost a little bit, but the main thing Klay has lost from those injuries is his ability to go up confident in traffic around the rim. You can kind of clearly see it. I was watching the game with my dad, James, and my dad was pissed off at Klay Thompson for not going up strong towards the rim. 5 of 20. Most of those come off of layups, James. Layups. They just point blank miss. There was one, it looked like he airballed. There was a ton before that. He was way too strong, way too high arcing off the glass. It just didn't work. But, I mean, Klay Thompson, he proved it. He doesn't have to be the guy he was. He can be the 4th option like he pretty much literally was in these finals behind Wiggins and Poole and still be enough because the beauty of Klay Thompson is that he's perfect for the Warriors because the threat of being a 3-point shooter is almost greater than actually being able to shoot threes in the NBA. If you can just get your help defender to stretch off a couple feet, that's the difference between a layup and a pass. So Klay Thompson, even though he struggled, he's that guy. Ring number 4.
Yeah, and I think you might have to put him. Weren't we talking about top 5 point guards of all time a couple weeks ago with Max, and we didn't want to
Oh,
put you guys in.
he's been the second greatest for a little bit now. I think if he can accomplish a little bit more, the
Magic
case for
only had
him to
4
pass
rings.
Magic one day is not out of the talk. I'll tell you what, if he was to win the championship next year, he vaults so high, so much higher. He jumps to maybe like number 4 or 5 all time, and he's better than Magic Johnson. He's the best point guard ever. If they win the championship next year, that is facts, James. That is booked, undeniable.
That is a hot take. A
That's
hot
not a
take
hot
from
take.
Jacob.
That's not a hot take. If you have the same amount of rings as Magic Johnson, and you are clearly better from a skill standpoint when it comes to dribbling and shooting, and you have this insane three-point record, you broke the game of basketball in a lot of people's eyes. I'm not one of those eyes, but, I mean, he's better than Magic. If he wins a championship next year, with LeBron and AD, if they're both healthy, if there's not this huge asterisk, you've got yourself the best point guard of all time. And right now, he's coming. He can taste the heels of Mr. Johnson.
I can't put a timetable, and I don't even know how much longer this core of the Warriors, has. How much
Not
longer
much.
do they have? Maybe a year, maybe 2 seasons at most.
Well, there's the
You
young
know.
guns. There's the
Yeah, but
young guns.
the contracts are gonna. I'm not saying next year, but the year after that's gonna be hard to have to maintain everybody. It's difficult to keep a team together in today's era because
I
everybody wants to get paid, everybody wants to move.
That's tough though, James, because here's the thing. Wiggins is actually already on a big contract, and the contract he gets offered might be like exactly the same or perhaps even less than what he's offered right now. Klay Thompson's deal, when he ever gets re-signed, won't be as much as it is right now. Draymond Green, when he re-signs, won't be as it is right now. Now I get it. You're going to have to pay Jordan Poole a decent amount of money, but I still want the Warriors to get rid of Wiseman. And here's the thing. Don't rule this out, James. I know how good Wiggins played. But if you could somehow trade Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, maybe a future first-round pick, and this guy, your number 2 overall pick, who you haven't really had to have play in Wiseman all postseason, you won the championship without him. If you really want to go back-to-back, you can even throw Jordan Poole in the mix. Trade and get another bona fide star. Go get you a Bradley Beal. Go get you whatever you need. And get another wing guy who can play next to Curry and Thompson. Another guy who can kind of fill that KD role, sort of. One last dance, James. You feel me? I want Bob Myers, if I'm a Warriors fan, to go all in this offseason. Don't lay to rest. Don't lay.
Oh, you sound pretty confident the Warriors are going to be hanging around for the next 2 seasons.
I sound confident if they listen to me.
Touche,
Anything
touche.
you want to add before we end the Coin Flip podcast?
Overall, it was a defensive series. I can't recall. I'm going to look back at all these games, but today was 103-90.
Facts.
And
Facts.
yeah, they were all really low scoring games. You look at Monday, it was 104-94. Friday, it was 107-97. 116, 100.
And I love that. It
107-88.
shuts up all the old heads.
And it does. And that's what happens when you get two teams that can play defense. I mean, game one was the highest scoring game out of all of them. And in almost every single game after that, it was just there was one team that scored double digits in 5 out of the 6 games. So,
And through all that, the Warriors shot well from 3 consistently. I think they shot about 40% for the series.
yeah, that sounds about right. But another season in the NBA is gone, man. So now's going to be the slow time up until NFL starts here in September. But now it's just going to be, I mean, I guess you don't
Not for
really.
me, man. I'm gonna be doing NBA trade rumors, who should sign who, all that stuff over the offseason. I'm gonna make sure I stay busy.
Stanley Cup's going on. That was a cool game yesterday. Won in overtime.
It was. Mavericks pulled off a trade yesterday.
Yeah, Christian Wood. That's
Yeah.
going to be interesting. I think people are overhyping it a little bit, but maybe I'm not seeing it all the way through. Because he averaged 18 and 10 last season on the Rockets. So, the Rockets got 4 players out of that trade.
Yeah, 4 players who are pretty much useless to them.
All right. Yep. I think we're just about done here.
And that is the Coin Flip Podcast. This might be episode 54, 53, who knows. James Guerin filling in for Martin Kelly alongside Jacob Zimmerman, recapping the finals, sprinkling in a little bit of other stuff there at the end. James, I appreciate you doing this with me.
Yeah, of course, man. Always a pleasure to do it with you immediately after the games.
Warriors fans, Warriors betters, it's time to celebrate. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of the Coin Flip. Have a good one.